if you've noticed, a lot of people have been working to make it look a little bit nicer around here, and there's like new paint in this wall. We're doing one thing at a time. So the next thing that we're hoping to do is to buy some new art from an artist named Scott Erickson, or Scott the Painter, if you follow him on Instagram, for this wall. So we're going to have 3 canvas prints that we've selected from him on that wall. And so far, so this is going to cost, and we're going to have one that kind of corresponds, that's also by him upstairs. So we would want to buy 4 of these. So far we've raised $475. It's going to cost $800 to get all of them, so we're like pretty close, kind of. How close are we? 60%? 65% there. But I just wanted to say we haven't talked about it a lot, and I was going to show you kind of so you could get excited.
You wouldn't believe how slow the internet is, though.
And this how you said that for people to donate, how do we donate?
Oh yeah, so if you can donate and you would like to donate, you can send an e-transfer to give@scc.ca, the same way you always give.
give@scc@gmail.com.
Oh, it's an email address.
But if you went on the website, it explains,
It
right?
tells you.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
it's all
Yeah.
there.
It's on the website.
And just say new art in what you're giving it for, so it's designated to that. So we're not taking, we're not using the general church funds for this, so we're keeping it separate, but then you still get your tax receipt. And this is what they look like. So if you scroll down a little, we're doing this one, a place at the table, the birds and the hand, the tree beneath, it's called Another Chance.
Yeah.
And if you go down a little more, what's the other one? Oh, this one, the Sorrowful Saint, with the tears going into the little tree that's being watered.
I don't see it yet.
It's
right in the middle.
second row on the far left.
Yeah. Right, yeah, that one.
Okay.
And then 2 over, there's a Trinity one, and that's the one that would go upstairs. So we want those on that wall, and just wanted to invite you to give to that. And this is a good moment to remind everyone that Bill, who's so faithfully done everything for us back there for sound, is going to finish in October after 30 years of doing this. And so if you have any interest, yes, let's... If you have any interest in learning to do sound, this is a great place to get some free training. Or just want to participate in that in some way. Anyone can do it. I think, right, Phil? Like if you teach maybe not anyone.
Yeah, I've never trained anybody that couldn't do at least part of it.
Okay. We're willing to let anyone try.
That's it, exactly.
That's it, exactly. That's great. Thank you. Yeah. Hi, Kathy. And in fact, I've been trying to say and tell people all through this season that our church hasn't grown back to its sort of pre-COVID levels of attendance, and we were helped through the COVID period as a nonprofit by stipends from the government. So we actually did okay financially through the whole time, but we don't have those anymore. And now we're weak. So we don't usually ask for money and services, but I think it's important to share in the building of the community if you're able to. And we have costs to keep the building going all the time, and also we have costs for there are about 6 or 7 staff positions that we have here, and we have people get modest stipends, and so it's nice if we can pay those. We like it better when we can. so it's a good thing to learn, to sort of make it a part of your giving into the world, to give something to the church. I think that's what we've sort of made it a commitment for us. We give a percentage of our income always comes here first, Yeah.
Can we give like small donations, like
Oh, yeah, for sure.
coffee fund? Do you
Oh,
have, like, a-
no, but that basket at the back.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
no,
yeah,
thank-
yeah. And that's always welcome. But to really hold everything together, we need some people that will say, this is a commitment for me, and I'll regularly do it. Okay, I have another announcement. Bill, can you put up that first thing?
There.
Oh,
I'm
okay.
ready for that one.
Okay, scroll down a bit. This is from Maddo, and Maddo's been too ill to be able to come to services all through COVID, and she struggled with cancer too, and it's been a real hard time for those guys. But things are getting a little bit better, and they just got a heat pump, which has been wonderful. And so because they got the heat pump, they have a dehumidifier that they don't need. So if anybody needs a dehumidifier, they'll sell it at a small cost, or if somebody's on a fixed income or something, they would give it. And then the other thing, they're ready. They've got full gardens of just acres of haskaps, and people can go and harvest them for $5 a pail. Is that it? No, $5 a pound. And these are great for making jams or for what do you else do you use haskaps for? Pies, for jams. They're like big blueberries. Yeah, muffins. Yeah, so good. Okay. So if anybody wants Maddo's information, I can give it to you. They live outside of town, about 10 kilometers. Okay, I think that's it for free service announcements. So Rick and Tina are going to do music today.
Bill?
Yeah, comments. There's just too much going on.
That's the thing, you have to be into like knobs and buttons if you want to do Bill's job. So.
From the love of my own comfort, from the fear of having nothing, from a life of worldly passions, deliver me, oh God, from the need to be understood, from the need to be accepted, from the fear of being lonely. Deliver me, oh God. Deliver me, oh God. And I shall not want, I shall not want. When I taste your goodness, I shall not want. When I taste your goodness, I shall not want. From the fear of serving others, from the fear of death or trial, from the fear of humility. Deliver Amazing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a soul like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see. My chains are gone, I am free. Holy Spirit, reminding me that like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. 'Twas grace that taught my heart to fear, and grace my fears relieved. How precious did that grace appear the hour I first believed. My chains are gone, I am free. Holy Spirit, reminding me that like a flood, His mercy reigns, unending love, amazing grace. Through many dangers, toils, and snares, I have already come. 'Tis grace has brought me safe thus far, and grace will lead me home. If earth shall soon dissolve like snow, the sun forbear to shine. My God, who called me here below, will be forever mine. Will be forever mine. You are forever
Yay. And so pretty, so beautiful. Thank you guys. Tanya's crying. And Jess, are you doing a poem this morning? Thanks. I asked you to do it, and we didn't talk about which one. I'm just so excited to hear something. Yeah, please come.
Yeah, thanks for asking me. This week has been like a whirlwind week for me and some others, Shannon. Our kids graduated from high school, which was fun, but busy. And so there's all kinds of, kind of emotions that come up at that time, and I was...
My granddaughter graduated too.
Did she?
This year, yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I've had this, at different times in my life, and I think this happens for all of us, where you start to relive, your own experiences of that. And so I was kind of in two places, I felt, this week, where one was I'm being very present to my daughter and my relationship with my daughter, and that she's, that I've been able to mother her all these years. And at the same time, I was thinking about my own childhood and what it was like to graduate from high school and what that experience was for me. And I think part of it is because I understand that we remember things and they get kind of lodged inside of us. And I don't know what those moments will be for her, but I know that they will be there. And so we're trying to, I think having that understanding might put the pressure up, just a little bit.
This is a good experience.
Yeah. Don't lose it. What is she going to remember? But anyway, so I thought I would read this. I'm going to read two poems. One's really short, the second one, and I think you'll hear why I'm going there. But the first one is Find Me, and I've read it a few times here. But when I was thinking about it this morning, I was thinking about the lines that say, I say, find me in the shame that grips when ancient roots arise and trip, eroding paths I thought were sent to find me. And I wrote this shortly after I first started coming here. And when I first showed up here in 2016, I said some things I thought I would never be able to say out loud. And then I thought I was going to be fine. I thought I'll be fixed now. And that I've learned that isn't the case. Those things come up, they rise up over and over again. And probably the work for me is to make peace with that and to not, I don't know, to resist the shame, letting the shame overtake and just accepting that this is my life and I will always have these certain triggers that arise at different times. So this is Find Me. Find me in the darkest night, wide awake, afraid of flight, praying to the God of light to find me. Find me when my head's bowed low, turned from love and all that glows, when shadowlands have gathered slow to find me. Find me in the shame that grips, when ancient roots arise and trip, eroding paths I thought were sent to guide me. Find me where the thistles bloom, as pain and beauty begin to move, holding space, creating room within my heart to find you. This is where I recognize you've been inside every hour that's come along beneath this sky to find me. And as I name them, large and small, I find I'm held within them all, even as I rise and fall to find you. Help me then to keep my gaze on what is here within this place. This is how I know your grace. This is where I see your face. This is how I find you. So that's find me. I'm not musical, but I give everyone permission to make sense.
Kind of working on it.
Okay, good. Mhm. And okay, and so this one is like, as I stumbled over my words just a minute ago, not wanting to like I never want to put a period on the end because I know that what I think I've learned is going to change. So this is, I guess, a bit about that. It's a series of what I called primal prayers, and then I just numbered them 1, 2, and 3, so this is 3. I never imagined I'd get to the end, and the end would feel so similar to the place I started. Like life is playing a game with me, sending me in circles around the same wounds, the same loss, the same heartbreak, all the while providing the same sparks of hope and love that catch me, call me to courage, and send me off to journey around the circle again. That's it. Thank you.
Let's just, I can't interrupt. Those are so beautiful. Thank you. Beautiful, beautiful. Man, so I'm moved by the music and I'm moved by the poetry and I'm moved by, I've brought a couple of scriptures I want to share. I want to talk about it. There's so much going on in the world, so much that is painful. We always have the Ukrainian flag now at the back to remind us to not stop praying for the horrible aggression to stop, to pray for peace in Ukraine and in other places, to pray for mercy, to pray for common sense, to pray for, this is what I actually think, to pray for female leadership in the world instead of testosterone-driven competition. I saw Jacinda Ardern on Stephen Colbert, and I was going, oh, come on. She's the Prime Minister of New Zealand. She's just so wonderful. There was a terrible shooting in New Zealand, in Christchurch, and so they immediately bought back all the weapons and destroyed them. And they said, the people had bought them legally, so we couldn't just tell them to give them up. The government paid for them all, and they were all given in. They haven't had a mass shooting since. They happen at the rate of 1.5 a day in the United States. So, and every time it happens in the US, there's such a crazy, crazy fight that goes on politically. And The Onion, which is the satirical newspaper, every time since 2014, 21 times when there have been these major horrible things, they've put basically the same story up. So this last time with Uvalde, Texas, they put up a kind of a collage of all 21. And basically the headline is, absolutely nothing can be done about this, says the only country in the world where it regularly happens. Nothing can be done about this, says the only country in the world where it regularly happens. So our political visions and our theological visions and all of it all mixes together. And I kind of want to talk about that a bit today. And so many of the themes in the music were just, the words today, deliver me from, that's beautiful. I don't know what that's called, it's a prayer that you sang first. Deliver me, O Lord.
I shall not want is the name of the song.
I shall not want. Yeah, I think it either comes from a hymn or it comes from, because quite a lot of the things we're doing today actually were centuries old.
Yeah.
I mean, I lift my eyes up is a psalm, that's Psalm 121, So when I think of that, I lift my eyes up to the mountains. Where does my help come from? I think of somebody who lives in a farming society, and maybe there's fear from neighboring countries, but I live, it's so real. I get into that headspace when I think of that. But I was thinking, what do we want to be delivered from? What do we want to be delivered from? And with so much that's happening politically, and it's painful sometimes, because sometimes people think that you're one thing, but you really have changed and grown and become something different. I saw your Instagram story. and I thought it was beautiful, And it's just, there's a call in us. We want to speak out and say, no, this is wrong. But then there are people that we love that feel strongly on another side, and you don't want to. We're just in this crazy polarization world. So how do we keep honoring individuals and give everybody the right to think their own thoughts, and still try to press for the best kind of wisdom that we can? How do we do it as a community? So anyway, I thought I'd just provoke today. I'd provoke in different directions. First thing is, Bill, would you mind putting up nor'easter apparel? It's in Dropbox, but Rick's gonna help.
You might be done before October.
This is September, right?
Can you make it bigger and then scroll down to the third page?
We're on it.
Page 3. This felt like a real honor to me. One of our graduate students from years ago is a graphic designer from Nova Scotia, and he created a clothing line, and the clothing line has become very popular. It's called Nor'easter Apparel, and he's decided that in this month in particular, in Pride Month, he wanted to say some things that were very clear to the world. And a lot of the themes on their t-shirts have to do with pride. And in this case, he phoned me. I hadn't talked to him for maybe 10 years. I just love this man. And anyway, he asked if he could connect with me, and we had a Zoom call. And he said, I was hoping maybe you would write a blog for my clothing line. So I wrote one, and he said, it just doesn't say enough about who you are. So I wrote it again. And this time he said that it's the one he wants to use. So I just feel like, keep going. Page 3. Yeah, that was the first one. Keep going. Okay. Next page. There you go. Yeah. So can you try and scroll through? It's 2 pages long. Yeah, thank you.
We're all over.
Okay. So this time, he just wanted me to say more of who I was. And I just felt like what an honor it was to do this. And then when he liked it, I was thrilled beyond words. Actually, I'll tell you, it's a very personal thing. But when he asked me to do it, we were talking, and he said, when I came to the graduate program, I didn't want there to be any confusion. I wanted everyone to know that I was a gay man. And so I included that in my application, and you guys accepted me to come and study. And at one point, I said to me, what should I think about this? What should I think about being a gay man and a Christian who loves God very much? And I said, I don't know what to think. I'm waiting for you to tell me. And I didn't know that I'd said that. But when he told me that recently, I thought, that's one of the proudest answers I've ever given in my life. I was so pleased, I almost cried. I don't know what to think. I'm waiting for you to tell me. And so anyway, here's the one that's going to go on the blog. I'm a straight man, divorced early in life, but married now for close to 4 decades. Father of 4, grandfather to 5, counting. What does Pride Month mean to me? I'm also a Christian pastor and a university professor of religious studies and historical theology. How does Pride Month affect the way I see my work? Both questions weave together for me. Here are some of the answers that come to mind. First, I love creativity. I value thoughtful responses in life. I also love the teachings of Jesus about justice and compassion. Pride is a creative response to the horrible violence and injustice that's been directed at the LGBTQ community people over the years. Jonathan Larson, writer of the Broadway play Rent, said, "The opposite of war isn't peace, it's creation." When you think of all the hatred that's been poured out on people of minority sexualities, I think it would be possible to imagine a different kind of response, an appropriate hatred, a desire to return evil with evil. Instead, there's pride, people taking to the streets to declare their truth, their worth, their value, and doing it in a lively and happy way. I wish that people in so many areas of life could learn from this example. Next, what about the people? I have so many friends, as well as a brother, in the LGBT community. Pride gives me a chance to think of how I value them, how much I've learned from them, how gentle they've been with me when I wasn't sure whether or not it was a good thing to support them. I am sure now. Then there's the church, the one I serve, and the larger church all over the world. I grieve when I think about the levels of exclusion that still exist. Why are religious people so slow to understand, so far away from the teachings they profess? I started out as a young pastor thinking the same way that I'd been taught, that marriage was only for a man and a woman. But as I got to know some wonderful gay students at the university where I taught, I realized something was wrong. Jesus said we should look at the fruit of actions and beliefs. The fruit of exclusion isn't good. LGBT children are far more likely to self-harm if they come from a conservative religious background than if they come from a loving and nurturing community of acceptance. That's what I believe in building now. What about the Bible? It's true that there are a few scattered verses that speak out against some forms of homosexuality, but the more I studied, the more I realized there's no condemnation of loving relationships. Instead, there are condemnations by biblical writers of something that they most likely saw as a form of domination or assault of one party over another. What about Jesus himself? What did he say about LGBT life? Famously, nothing at all. What about church history? The most common view in the church has been that marriage was given by God for the purpose of procreation, of making babies. However, the more I studied, the more I realized that there were lots of problems with the things that ancient church fathers believed. Many of them said hateful things about women. Many thought that spiritual concerns were more important than an embodied life in this world. Many believed that sexuality was evil. I cannot agree with these perspectives. Sometimes the people that gave us the foundations for religious thought and practice were just wrong. More important than the idea of marriage as a place to make babies is the hidden word from far back in the Old Testament. It is not good for the man to be alone. Most of us need to be in loving and nurturing relationships to become all that we can be. What does pride mean to me in my life and in my work? Pride is a glorious example of people giving a creative and compassionate response to evil that has been directed against them. Pride is about the declaration that we're all worthwhile. Pride is more in line with the ideas I choose to believe about God than those of the judgmental communities that exclude and devalue the beautiful life that God has given in and to each sacred person. I think... Somehow, in these days, we have to say what we believe, but we have to try to do it in love and in humility, in a way that doesn't put others down when they come from other places, when they think other things. It's not easy to do sometimes. This week, the abortion decrees from the Supreme Court in America are killing people. And that's it because they're afraid that they're going to kill way more people. And it's just, so we have a world of turmoil. So I thought what I would do is read from several passages in the book of Acts and just show you something which was considered the archetype. Do you know what that means? Like the beginning, the original, the ideal. Let's look at the ideal. So let's go back to Acts 2. Scroll down a little bit. Just a little bit further. Yeah, I'm going to start reading at verse 43. Something amazing happens at the beginning of the book of Acts. Jesus has died. He's been crucified. The disciples are terrified. They think that they will be put to death. They're hiding away. And then after these months have passed, I can't remember, is it 120 days? I can't remember exactly, but something happens. There's an explosion of spirit. And the explosion of spirit gives these people so much courage that they leave the room where they've been basically hiding away, and they pour out into the street, and they're prophesying, and a miracle happens. Although they are all saying things, that it's like all the people around about are hearing them in their own language. So this is the story of Acts 2, and it's called the beginning of the church. It's the day of Pentecost. And so it's this, like, something amazing has happened. Everybody is astonished. And then some people are just going, these people are drunk. And Peter says, look, it's 9 o'clock in the morning, you know. Give us a break. We won't be drunk till 5, you know. So it's not that. It's what has happened is spiritual power has broken out. Something amazing has happened. And because of that, an incredible quality of life starts to form. So look at this passage. Everyone kept feeling a sense of awe, and many wonders and signs were taking place through the apostles. And all those who had believed were together, and they had all things in common. And they began selling their property and possessions, and they were sharing them with all, as anyone might have need. And day by day, continuing with one mind in the temple, and breaking bread from house to house, they were taking their meals together with gladness and sincerity of heart, praising God and having favor with all the people. And the Lord was adding to their number day by day those who were being delivered or saved. Just in the passage before this that I didn't read, it says, be saved from this wicked and perverse generation. With all of this, like, I think, what does it mean to be saved? You can give this sort of a religious answer, but you could also say, wouldn't I like to be saved from the selfishness and the insanity of a polarized world? Wouldn't I like to build a better community than the world where there are corporate executives who make billions of dollars and there are other people that don't have Medicare? Wouldn't I like to build a world that was better than that? You know, wouldn't I? I would. So this to me seems like some kind of an ideal. These people have been so touched by something that suddenly they start to share. They don't have private property anymore. Now, this has happened a few times in history, and especially in the last 2 centuries, where this has been forced upon people. We will have communism. We'll have a society where everybody shares, but it's forced from some central government. I don't think that's the same as this. This instead seems to be something like, whoa, we've all been touched and amazed by something that just happened, and because of that, we're opening our hearts in a way we've never had before. We're sharing all our goods. We're caring for people. We see somebody that's hurting. We're trying to fix it. So I think these guys are attaining a level of communal vision, which I'm not even sure I would like to live at. You know, I was thinking about it. I'm going, it's pretty special, but I don't know. I'm really happy to have my own quiet place to go back to. I need a little quiet space, you know, there's certain kinds of foods which I don't want to share. You know, I mean, just to be honest, this almost looks beyond an ideal to me. But can you move on? Don't stop at Acts 3, go all the way to Acts 4. There. Here it's basically saying the same thing again, 2 chapters later, trying to say this continued for a while. The congregation of those who believed were of one heart and soul, and not one of them claimed that anything belonging to him was his own, but all things were common property to them. And with great power the apostles were giving testimony to the resurrection of the Lord Jesus, and abundant grace was upon them all. For there wasn't a needy person among them, for all who were owners of land or houses would sell them and bring the proceeds of the sales, lay them at the apostles' feet, and they'd be distributed to each as he had need. I mean, what a social vision. People selling all of their stuff and going, let's make a common kitty, and then whatever anybody needs, let's take care of them, you know. And part of me is going, yeah, I think. I'm not really sure I want that. But I know that it didn't happen because there was a centralized government that was telling people to do this. It happened because hearts opened, because they experienced something. And I think this is true in our experience. Like, we're not at this place, But I know that there are times when, as a community, all of our hearts broke open, and we all immediately tried to do what we could to help. Like the biggest example that would come to mind would be the Syrian refugees. When suddenly, we had 3 to 6 families that came to St. Stephen from Syria in the middle of the war. And about a group of about almost 40 volunteers, almost all from this church, started meeting weekly to see what we could do. And there were so many people that had great skills. We rebuilt apartments. We made apartments. We worked with governments to take some apartments and turn them into low-income housing for them. We did everything that could be done to make it welcoming, and we taught English. We gathered food. We gathered clothes and furniture. I mean, everything that was done, and the joy in this place for about a year was palpable because everybody's heart had been opened by something, and then everybody worked together. And people started coming to our house and giving us money for the Syrian project. We had people, somebody came to the back door, just knocked, never seen this person before, young man. He said, "You're the guys doing something for the Syrians?" We said, "Yeah." He said, "Me and my wife, we wanted to give a baby carrier, a child's car seat. They're expensive now." It was like $250. He said, "And my mother wants to do it too." Handed me $500 and left. I don't know his name. Still to this day, I don't know who that was. And that kind of thing was happening. We raised $60,000 to take care of these families. And our hearts, there was joy in our building because we were all broken open by something bigger than us. When you did that song, I lift my eyes up to the mountains from Psalm 121. I never hear that. I think I've told it 2 or 3 times, maybe 6. Maybe 10. But one time when we had Mary Ellen's aunt was in the hospital, terrified of dying, with terrible breathing and very low oxygen in her blood. 55 was on the register, and it's supposed to be 92. And we said a simple prayer for her. Well, we'd been on a trip. We came when we heard she was in the hospital. We dropped our stuff and raced to the hospital. And she was terrified. She told us she was terrified, and she said she was afraid she was going to die. And we just started to pray for her gently. And it felt so beautiful. I thought, how do I keep this feeling? It felt like peace had come into the room. And I thought, how do I keep this peace here? And I said, maybe if I sing. So I started, I mean, you might have, maybe. Anyway, I was going to make a joke about, that might kill somebody, but I just said, maybe if I sing. I started singing that song. I lift my eyes up to the mountains. Where does my help come from? My help comes from you, Maker of heaven, Creator of the earth. And the beautiful peace stayed. I mean, it was just a little bit unusual. It wasn't just quiet. It was something richer. And the beautiful peace stayed for the 4 or 5 minutes that we sang there. And then a couple of the family members came in and they said, "Did anything happen when you prayed?" And I said, "No, I'm sorry, nothing happened." And then suddenly, the oxygen register started to change. And in the next 2 minutes, we watched as it went 55, 56, 57, 58, 59. And it went up to 88 and then settled. Sometimes we would go back a step and then it would go forward again. In 2 minutes, it went from 55, where it had been for a month, everybody thinking that she would die. It went and settled at just under where it's supposed to be. And we watched that, and I just thought, oh, it's something amazing. There is a flow of life, which I call God, that can come, and when it comes, it can change things. And I don't know very often how to be a good access point to let it come. But something happened in Acts 2, and something happened in that hospital room. And it's in my life, when I look back, I've been a pastor now for, 30 years. Well, actually more than that, because we did a church before this one. But I know that sometimes something comes which is just so beautiful, you don't have words for it, and it opens everybody's heart if they experience it. And they would share whatever they had, because suddenly everything else seems less important. Does that make sense? We're just kind of, we're growing to the end of our time of pastoring. We're gonna, when Bill retires, we decided to retire too.
Sounds like you're planning a road trip or something.
Road trip. Kim said, sounds like you're planning a road trip. Yeah.
Take on the road, guys.
So, we're going to celebrate the 30th birthday of this church, because we started it on October the 4th, 1992. Yeah. And so we'll celebrate that in the fall, and then we'll step down and we'll see what happens as the community grows. And but it's a rich and beautiful thing to look back. I guess that's kind of what Jess said too, to look back and to realize that the things that you experience, and it also connects with what you experienced before. So anyway, I wanted to share this morning just sort of this chaotic jumble of thoughts, because I think so much is happening in the world which is touching our emotions so deeply, and there's a vision for something better, and I can see that it happened once. Actually, put up Empire and Spirit. It looked like I was coming in for a landing, but I got 3 more things to say. 3 more things to say.
So where is
that? It's a document, and it's called Empire and Spirit. It's in Dropbox, yeah. Oh my goodness, it disappeared.
Have you got it memorized?
Okay, I have it memorized. Don't worry about it, guys.
It doesn't seem to be there.
It was there in my Dropbox at home. But anyway, I don't mind. All I'm going to say is, I brought some of the really neat quotes from Roman historians about how much early Christians cared for each other and for people around them. And sometime I'll show you those quotes. They're just so beautiful, because the Roman historians can't believe the quality of love. And it continues for a while. I guess that's all I wanted to say, is that early church ideal, it continued for a while. And it's come every once in a while in history, it touches a movement too. People get so touched by something that they really share. They don't share because they're forced to. And they don't, and the other pole is to just make everything completely for yourself and tremendous competition. I have a friend who said, I just wish that when somebody made $1 billion, they would get a certificate from somewhere saying, congratulations, you won. Now we're going to take a reasonable amount of the rest of your money and take it and make it work for everybody else. Congratulations, you won capitalism. And I guess, so there's one polarity which is just all about I'll get what I can get for myself, and I'll give away what I want to sometimes. That's one side. And the other side is, no, we'll force you to share. But there's something in the middle which is gorgeous, which is we're so touched by love, or by something that emerged in our midst, by the Spirit that came. We're so touched by it that our hearts have opened, that we really want to help. And I guess, yeah, the Syrian experience here was amazing. We've had that happen a few other times too. And anyway, so all I was going to do was tell you, the early church, the sacrifice was noticed by the people that were even writing against Christians. But they said, I have to say, the way they love each other is incredible. Yeah. Okay. And then the last thing that I was going to do, which I was going to share a rabbinic story. The rabbinic story, how do I make this fit with everything I just said? Okay. There's an ancient rabbinic story, well, not ancient, it's probably centuries old, but not really ancient. It's from Eastern Europe. There's this Jewish rabbinical story that I love. And to me, I guess this is, why did I include this? I think that in this story, there's a secret. Maybe I'll tell you the story and then you tell me what you think the secret is. The story is called If Not Higher. There was a community in Eastern Europe, and there was a Rebbe in this community. In Jewish thought, in Jewish life, a rabbi is a teacher, and we have rabbis. They're a lot like priests or pastors, right? But in Eastern European Jewish communities, there was a Rebbe. And a Rebbe doesn't mean my teacher so much as it means my master. So a Rebbe is almost more like the spiritual leader, almost like the king of a community. But he's very much like in the indigenous communities where the chief is the last one to be fed. He's the one who makes sure everybody else has a blanket. So it was the Rebbes were the ones who cared for everybody else in the community. There was one community, they loved their Rebbe so much. They thought he was their teacher, but he was also their leader and their servant, and they loved him so much. And they said, they developed this story because on Yom Kippur, which is the holiest day in the Jewish calendar, it happens on the 10th day of the 7th month every year. Every Jewish man fasts all day long. It's called the Day of Covering. Yom, it means day. Kippur means covering. So the Day of Covering. So on Yom Kippur, on the 7th day of the 10th day of the 7th month, every year, every Jewish man fasts. But mysteriously, in this community, their Rebbe was never present on that. He was always gone. He was never there. He wasn't there for the temple service. He wasn't there for any of the communal gathering. So they developed this story, and the story was that every day he went to heaven. Every day on the Day of Atonement, he had an interview in heaven. He was taken up to be with the Master of the Universe. And they told this over and they would always share it. Yes, our Rebbe is never here. He's in heaven on the Day of Atonement. So there was a village skeptic. He was the atheist. He was the one who said, yes, let's see what really happens. So he decided that what he would do is he would get up in the middle of the night and he would stay hidden outside of the Rebbe's home. And he was there when the Rebbe came out very, very early in the morning, long before the sun came up. And the Rebbe went out into the woods and he followed him. He went through a very difficult path. But he finally came to a hut. And in the hut, it was kind of a broken down hut. And there was an elderly lady that was living there. She was just very partly incapacitated. But she managed to live there. And the Rebbe just said hello. And then he just started cutting wood. And he cut wood all day. He cut it, he split it, he stacked it for her, enough for the whole year to come. And then he went in and he started to make her a soup. And the skeptic is looking in through the village, or through the window, and he watched as the soup was made. And then the Rebbe served her. And then he went home late that night. And so ever after, whenever people were saying, our Rebbe, on the Day of Atonement, he goes to heaven. This man said, if not higher. If not higher. So I think we could live it. Our aim for living as individuals or as a society could be one place or another place that isn't good enough. It could get misshapen you could have a religious vision and it could be misshapen, as we've said today. Many of the ideas in the religious world are very hurtful and we have to get rid of them. But there is something true and beautiful, and that's what we don't want to lose. And that's the thing that makes our heart serve somebody else. It's this love that somehow opens you up.
The renewal of the Holy Spirit. Renewal of spirit.
Renewal of spirit. Because we get empty, and I guess I said I was going to ask you guys, and then I told you what I thought. Anybody have anything they want to say? Yeah, Pete.
The Lord's Prayer.
Okay, we can do that. Anybody else have anything?
I saw a documentary back in the 80s, early 90s, and it was about the ecumenical movement, charismatic movement that occurred back in the 70s, and a bit of a wave. It was a good documentary on CBC, and they noticed it as a phenomena, and they did a little bit of back history to it, and it's going to happen again, and that's what we can hope for. It happens like in intervals. And we
Like
can't
waves.
predict it. Yeah.
Sometimes there's a wave of something that
Yeah.
breaks your heart open.
Yeah.
And then you sense, yes, Sandy, what are you thinking?
It's one of the questions of my, the conundrums of my Christian experience. I think that I grew up in an experiment of Acts.
Oh, you grew up in something that felt pretty much like Acts.
The intention was to recreate it
Yeah.
and to live in common and to share. And the spirit, it was on the other side of the veil.
So, say that again, the Spirit was on the other side of the veil. What do you mean?
Well, I took that term from you or someone here, but being on the other side
Oh.
of the veil.
Oh yeah, I know how I used it once.
So common.
You could sense an interplay between the spiritual world and the material world. Is that right? Yes.
A sense of the awesome experience of being in the presence of others and sharing the presence of God is so different from just the presence of God alone.
Okay.
To have that and to have the experience of these are the people that you're living with in common, actually, in my own experience, as an effort to recreate Acts. But after 18 years or something like that, the quote-unquote leader of this experiment decided that we were getting kind of lukewarm and would dissolve it. And I lost my family and my community.
Oh,
and
I'm sorry.
I've been spiritually homeless since that point.
Okay.
But something that and Acts 2 was used as an ideal. It was the ideal to recreate. This was the Lord's intention for the church. And then once I realized Acts 2 didn't last.
I mean, it was revisited sometimes.
And that's it, but it is a wave. And I don't understand it. Revivals come in waves. I don't understand it. This is something that comes from, some kind of amalgam of human and spiritual connection. And it's amazing, and the loss of it is also huge. And the longing, and I think of, like Lewis and talking about longing.
C.S. Lewis,
Yeah,
the inconsolable longing.
And that longing, I think, is within all of us. But how do we excavate that? Yeah. In a world that's so much in pain.
Yeah.
And somehow it is in selflessness. That is the tenet of our faith. It is self-giving and selflessness. Where does that come to a community and ignite in spirit so that those who are religious and have been taken over by exclusion and hatred, their hearts can melt. And this is the here I sit. With that is the conundrum of my faith.
I just can't thank you enough for sharing that. You actually lived for 18 years in an experience that tried to make Acts 2 the ideal that you would strive to live for. And then out of that, suddenly a leader, maybe that was an unfortunate thing, suddenly the leader made the decision for everybody, oh, we're getting lukewarm, we should just stop, and dissolved a family.
And that's not to say that there weren't plenty of problems.
Okay.
Plenty. But the first century, they had lots of problems.
Yeah, they had problems in the first century too. That's the one thing that's consistent in history. We got lots of problems. Yeah.
But nothing can, you know.
The beautiful moments were beautiful.
To that experience of a group of people experiencing the presence of God.
Yeah, together.
I
Hearts
think
open.
that's what the Lord's Prayer is all about, it invites spirit.
I think you're right. And that's maybe why Pete reminds us every week that we should say it.
Yeah.
It's like, it's together we're inviting the Spirit. You're perfect, Kim. So maybe what we're asking for is, times of refreshing, times of some kind of vision that goes beyond ourselves, that breaks our heart open, that makes us ready to do God's work in the world, which hopefully is just caring for people. That's enough, eh? Let's do the Lord's Prayer and go home. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen. You know, that's such a simple prayer, but I think it's like saying, God, please help with today. Please forgive yesterday. Please lead us in a good tomorrow. And please do it with your Spirit breaking through. Goodbye.
Can I ask prayers for my mom? My mom's in the hospital.